All right, thanks. I get the honor of introducing our guest speakers today. They have been so helpful for me, and I think they'll be very helpful for all of us today as well. Rebecca and Anna, we have folks from Southern California as well as Southern Colorado, and I don't know, there's probably other places as well. I'm just not as familiar with some folks as I am with others.
And that's from Santa Fe.
From Santa Fe as well. Okay, just so you know, no pressure. I'm sure you'll all be okay though. All right, but Anna, I met Anna through Rebecca, and Rebecca helped me with the kind of release forms and things like that. And she also kind of helped me out with my students in assignments using the Spanish-speaking peoples of Utah oral history database that I think they will probably show you all about today as well. But with a little bit more formal introduction, today Anna and Rebecca are going to be presenting collaborative oral histories at the University of Utah. Okay, and Rebecca is the Assistant Moving Image and Sound Digital Archivist for the Special Collections at Marriott Library here at the University of Utah. She is the Moving Image and Sound Digital Archivist in the University of Utah. So I imagine you're the one that works with the videos that I upload into the box files and all that kind of complex process that we're working through as well. Okay, hang on a second. She works on making analog audiovisual materials appropriately accessible to communities in the digital world, with a focus on oral histories and film. Her academic background is focused in history and art history, including a Master's of Letters in Technical Art History from the University of Glasgow in Scotland. She received her MLIS and certificate in Archival Administration from Wayne State University. That's in Detroit, correct? Yes, okay. Anna Neutra is a digital initiatives librarian here at the Marriott Library, University of Utah. And she manages descriptive metadata workflows. I don't know how many of you have been able to kind of look at the database already, but Anna's the one that's kind of organizing everything for us and getting the key terms put into place so that we can navigate those oral histories a little bit easier. The digital exhibits program and workflows digital exhibits program supports emerging technology projects. Her research interests include name authority control in digital libraries, collaborative digitization, digital humanities, and metadata community support. All right. Thank you so much for talking to our group today. Thank you so much for all your help with my work up to this point, and my students really appreciate all that you've done for us as well. And I think, I'm not sure if the other interviewers are on here, but maybe they'll jump on a little bit later. But all of us, thank you. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to the two of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ed. Okay, so I'm going to start with a brief introduction to special collections in the Marriott Library and some of our oral history collections. And then Anna is going to talk a bit about our digital collections in the digital library. So we'll share my screen again. So here is the landing page for the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. And the easiest way to find our special collections page is under this research tab at the top. And that will take you straight to special collections if you click on that. So our special collections is divided into several departments, which you can see listed down the side of the screen here. So moving image and sound, which is audiovisual where I work, and our photograph archives have actually merged into one department now called multimedia. So this website may update sometime soon. We have manuscripts, which is a lot of letters, diaries, personal papers, notes. And that's also where the transcripts for all of our oral history collections reside. Because historically, for oral history projects, the manuscript was considered the master copy, the transcript that was approved by the interview subject. So some of our collections from like the 60s or 70s, we may not have actual audio tapes for them, but we do have transcripts that are accessible through our manuscripts division. We have print and journal, which is a lot of like serial publications like journals and newspapers. They have a lot of maps and publications that are about Utah subjects that we have a collecting focus on. Rare books is what you typically associate with a special collections. So the really cool old books, artist books, medieval manuscripts, and historic volumes that can't really circulate in our general collections. And then we have a few other like kind of specialized areas. We have our ski archive and the book arts program within our department as well. So we are currently only open by appointment, but if you do want to put in a research request, a very easy way to do that is this link here for the contact web form. And even if you're in, California, Santa Fe, anywhere, you can fill this out and we are happy to help you remotely. So you can just kind of give us information about what your research question is, what collection you would like to look at, and we can do reproductions, usually digital files that we can send to you if you're out of the Salt Lake area. But if you are in town, then there is a little section here about making an actual appointment to come in, since we do have limited hours from the COVID situation continuing. Yes, so this is a really good way to get in touch. You can also email me. Our phone lines are currently having some difficulties in the library, but so my personal phone line doesn't work, but this number here at the top of the page does still work if you would like to call and ask any questions as well. So that's kind of a general overview of this part of the page. If you scroll down a little bit, then there are links for research, and this is where I'm going to kind of focus on. So Archives West is where our finding aids are, and finding aids are basically lists of what's in a collection. So we host our finding aids on an external platform called Archives West, and it's for a bunch of Intermountain Western state repositories. You can kind of limit by state or by institution within those. To look for specific collections, you can also search. So we'll do real quick. And as I mentioned, because the transcripts and the audio recordings are considered separate collections for our historic oral histories, there are two finding aids that will show up. So this one's for the audio recording, so the actual tapes that my department has. And then this second one is going to be for the transcript copies. So let me switch over. And we're going to be creating a finding aid for the collection Ed has been working on with us. This is just kind of a sense of what that will look like. It's a lot of information at the beginning, but then yeah, you can get into the names and the contents. And I know Ed, you were talking about some different ways of faceting for searching in the digital library, but we can kind of reconfigure how this information is arranged to make it the most useful for genealogical research. So including information about, like family names or locations and stuff, and ensuring that is in this information. So this is general finding aid. And then one other thing I wanted to show are some of our digital exhibitions. There is one, Anna works on all of these, so I might be kind of stealing her thunder a little bit, but there is one about oral histories that does have a little bit of information about our collaboration with the American West Center on campus. That's where a bunch of our oral histories have come from, especially ones that are focused around ethnic groups and identity groups, and kind of how to complete an oral history and things. But then we also have a few highlighted collections, like our Topaz oral histories, Jewish oral histories, and the Carbon County mining oral histories. And also within this is a link to, I cannot right click today. Kind of a landing page for information about a bunch of our collections. I'm working on cleaning this up at the moment, but this has kind of a master list of all of our collections. If you have any interest in poking around there and seeing what else we have going on. Yeah, so that was kind of my general introduction. Here's my contact information on our webpage, but I think Ed can also pass that along to you as well. And I think I will pass things over to Anna for now.
Okay, cool. I don't know, does anybody have any questions so far?
Yeah.
Maybe we can also just pause and see if what people might be curious about.
Yeah, Ed.
I was wondering if you could maybe show us one of those Spanish-speaking peoples of Utah oral histories. If you could.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could access the audio tapes.
Yeah.
Is that possible? Because
that's one of the collections we're kind of working on. So we do have the audio recordings. They aren't online yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
so that is a work in progress. But yeah, because we have like reel-to-reel tapes or cassette tapes, all different formats that we have to digitize, and then put them into our digital library in association with the transcripts. So there are a few steps behind.
Yeah.
Maybe I could, maybe if you, because are there some in the Cooley oral history collection that have both the audio and the transcript together? Because we could,
yeah, I was gonna I could pull up.
Maybe maybe I could start talking, and then Rebecca, you could find that link, and then we could show people what it kind of looks like when those formats are.
Yeah, because I just put up a collection this week that isn't Spanish speaking oral histories, but you can see how that looks. So Anna, how about you start talking?
Okay. I will start talking. Hold on, let me find my tabs, and then as I'm going along, just let me know if anybody has questions, and let me try and find my starting page. So Rebecca and I work in different departments in the library. Rebecca's very much dealing with the physical objects, and then on my side of things, we work on making things fully accessible to the public. And what we do have is just a small percentage of the materials that are in special collections. So right now, and I'll put these links in the chat later on, this is the digital library. You can see here that we have many digital collections with over 1 million items. And that's because we have things from the University of Utah, but we also have materials from state agencies or small historical societies. So we're really working with folks all across the state. So then if you're curious about, if you are on this landing page and you want to see which oral histories that we have that are available that have been digitized, there's actually this little oral history button right here, and you can click on that, And then that gives you a sense of what we have that's been digitized. So you'll see here, here's Ed's project, super cool. And then we can also see we have some transcripts available, like the Carbon County oral histories, the Everett Cooley oral history project, Golden Spike, Great Basin National Heritage Area. And then a lot of, in the past, there's been a lot of folks that have prioritized doing oral histories with people from underrepresented groups. So we have interviews with Jewish people in Utah, interviews with Japanese Americans in Utah, and then some of our earlier collections, a lot of these were done in the 80s. So Ed was mentioning, I think, the Hispanic oral histories. I'm just going to click on that. And this is an example where right now we only have the transcripts available. But if we wanted to look at any of these transcripts, we could click on one of those, and then we're getting a PDF of the oral history. So here we can see the transcript of this oral history. And then if this was a oral history of one of my family members, or if I wanted to, you know, study this in more detail, I could just click up at the top where it says download file, and then I can just download a copy of that to just have on my computer for my research. So that's an example of some of our existing oral history collections. And again, we just have, I'm trying to think, I'm guessing like 20-ish, maybe separate collections online, but how many oral history collections are actually in special collections? Rebecca, do you have a sense of that?
At least like 80.
Okay, so we're behind in making things digitized, and part of that is due to a lot of the complexity with having, you know, audio files and old formats and needing to get those digitized and placed online. So whenever you're looking at some of these things that are available, just be aware that there's probably a lot more out there that's like physically in the library.
Yeah. Also, sorry, my cat is really trying to help.
Okay.
With this presentation. But okay, bye. Also, part of why some of these, like, we might have digitized them and have digital copies, but because of the issues with release forms, we just haven't felt comfortable like ethically putting them online, especially some of the collections from like the 60s and things where the internet wasn't even a concept that people were signing away the release form for. They're like, yeah, this is for someone to come into a special collections reading room and look at, not just Google and find it out of nowhere. So that is another reason why there's, especially with the audio copies, there are fewer online. As I said, because the transcripts were master copies, the interviewees were able to edit things and approve exactly what was said in the transcripts, whereas the audio copies can sometimes have a totally different little section of talking that they maybe didn't want to have recorded for posterity for a variety of reasons. So there are some ethical kind of situations around posting some of the older audio recordings, but we do make them available for researchers who are working with specific things. But yeah, there's like this shift that's happened with what's considered the master copy from a transcript to the video or audio recording, because our society now is much more used to having access to all kinds of audio and video at any given time on our phones and in the media and things. So I think there's kind of a shift that's been happening as well.
Yeah, and so the collection that we put together for Ed's project as sort of an example of that shift where we have transcripts side by side with the video files. So just as an example, this is what we have so far with the interviews that have been done for this project. And hopefully we'll be able to bring in more and more content into this. So we can see here, we have the creator is usually the person who is the interviewee. They're sharing their memories. So we have an index by last name here. We also have the interviewer as the contributor. So you can see here, we'll have an option to split out the interviews by chapter. I don't know if you can see where my mouse is hovering over on the side. And then we also have information about what people are talking about. Are they coming from a particular state? Are there childhood memories in Utah, or maybe are they talking more about their family in Colorado or New Mexico? So that can provide a way for researchers to find these and interact with the oral histories online. And you can see here, here's one of the transcripts that's online. And here is one of the videos. I don't think I'm going to play the video, but it's there.
That one was mine.
I know, I was making a point of showing your video because I saw that you were so here's this one. I'm just going to kind of pause it, but then people can go in and also see the video for this. And my job is to, when Ed was talking about metadata, was to try to come up with the things that make it discoverable. So trying to describe some of the things that I saw in the video, so other folks doing research can, you know, find these great resources. Any questions so far?
And I found an example of the audio and transcript together.
Oh, cool.
So
Should I just search for it, or do you want me to stop sharing and then you can...
I can just pop the link in
Okay.
chat and then you can open it up.
Okay, let me find it. I think actually it sometimes hides the... Okay.
Anna and Rebecca, are these available if you were to do just a Google search? Could you find this information?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so how would you search? By their name or by the university, or how?
You could search by the name of the person, and then it depends on how unique your name is. It might just pop up. Or if, sorry, I'm trying to get into, so here's an example of a transcript and an audio file together. So there's the transcript right here, just as an example. And then I'm going to scroll down, and then you see there's a little play button underneath it.
Hey. Yeah.
Okay, so I won't play that, but you can see how somebody could listen to the audio file and then also scroll along with the transcript. So eventually,
we didn't hear the audio.
I will play it.
Yeah, if you could click those two buttons at the bottom when you share your screen.
I guess the best place to start is just what you were starting to tell me before I turned on the tape.
Yeah, it's very faint, but
Yeah.
normally when you share your screen, initially there's two buttons at the bottom that you have to click in order for us to hear the audio. And
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sometimes not awesome at Zoom. But I can try and go back and do that later. I think it's not Also, because I'm using an external mic in one space, and then I'm not sure if it'll switch over to, but it's there. We can, you can maybe check that out, you know, later on. Let me try and go back in. So that was just an example of the transcript with the audio file. And then I think we were going to talk about the form that we have people fill out for oral history projects. So let me do that real quick. So this is the form for the oral
It has
history.
on the, wait,
Sorry, was there a question?
I don't think so. I think somebody was
Oh,
trying
okay.
to.
So here's the form, which is essentially a donation form to give the materials in the oral history to Marriott Library special collections for safekeeping and preservation. So you can see there's a couple paragraphs of information. Then in the form, you can just fill in your name and email address information. And then there's an option to pick if you're the interviewee or the interviewer. So we don't move ahead until we have permission from both of the people who are doing an oral history interview. And then another thing that we do want to be careful about is like your own personal privacy and comfort levels in making these oral histories available online. So no restrictions means people could find it if they Google you. And then we also have some options where if you don't want anybody to look at the interview until a
no,
specific
because Friday
date,
was yesterday.
you can do that. And then you also have the options to restrict it just to somebody being physically on the Marriott Library campus and in the special collections, you know, department. So there's all those options there that people can decide, and then you kind of type your name as an electronic signature. And then that gets sent off to us, and then we'll take a look at it and see about making it available or not so available in the digital library, depending on which option you select there.
And
Any,
Anna, and people have to sign off before we, on this form, right?
yes,
Before we will even release those
yes. So we need,
audio files and all that.
yeah, we need both the interviewer and the interviewee to agree. We have some other projects like this where sometimes if only one person signs the form, then I'm like, oh, too bad, we can't move, you know, the next step forward. So so we do need both the interviewer and the interviewee to sign this form.
And I'd like to add to that our process with doing the interviews. After we do the interviews, we do a transcription and we forward the transcription to the person that we interviewed and let them read it and edit it, because if they're talking about anything that they don't really want out there.
I'll get it.
I'll also say, if you do an interview and then afterwards you change your mind and you're like, oh, I said I wanted this to be available, but now I've changed my mind, you can send us an email and we'll take things down. So we can be pretty flexible.
Yeah, Anna, you mentioned the Hispanic oral histories in the 1980s. Does that mean that you don't have all this permission for those people? And that's what you're trying to get?
Well, I think we have the permissions to make the transcripts, some of those available. The only things that we've put online with the historical oral histories are the ones where we actually do have a specific permission form to make that accessible. I'm not sure. Rebecca, do you know with the tapes for those, do we have permission for the tapes or just the transcripts?
That's a good question. We have like files of the release forms in our department, and I do not have them in front of me since I am at home, but it is kind of hit or miss, I think, for different projects,
Yeah.
which is part of why it's very slow going on my end.
There have been some oral history projects where I've like figured out they exist, and I've like, can't we put these online? And then I'll ask special collections, and then they're like, oh, we don't have the deed of gift forms, and I'm like, oh, all right. So part of having this like online form where we're trying to be like really clear about collecting permissions and making it clear where the interview would be going, you know, and giving people different options for restricting it, is to just get all of that information from people up front. So then we're not in sort of a patchwork situation like we are with some of our historical oral histories, where we can't put online things from the 1960s because nobody had a release form that accounted for the internet back then. So
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
My father was interviewed, it may have been in the 70s, but just out of curiosity, let's say, could I give you that permission or sign that? My father's deceased. He died in the 80s. Would I be able to give you that permission if that was an issue?
I don't know, because I don't know if legally you're able to give permission for your deceased father. Rebecca, do you have a sense of that?
So that's so a large project that I'm working on currently is the Doris Duke Native American Oral History Project. We have a big grant where we, the university, have all these interviews, and we're going back to tribal groups and leadership. And these are, again, from like the 60s. And a lot of the people that were interviewed have deceased or are deceased. But we are working with those tribal groups to get their permissions on things. So there are family members giving permissions now for that collection.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's kind of, I think there's like a legal side of things and there's an ethical side of things. And so
Yeah.
I think our general approach with that is in good faith, trying to make sure that the family members are aware that this stuff exists.
Well, I'm the only family member. I have no siblings, and my father didn't have any other family. So it would be me. If I didn't want it out there, I guess I would be telling you no.
Gloria, do you know if he was interviewed for the Spanish-speaking Peoples of Utah project or not?
I'm not sure. I know that it was part of the, what is it? The Western, they used to be at the annex at the university, and they were the ones doing the interviews. But I don't, I have the transcript, but I believe it was in the 70s because I was still living here. I moved to New York in 1980. So I'm pretty sure he was interviewed in the 70s. Because he was president of the Mexican Civic Center in the 1970s. So that's probably why they interviewed him at that time.
So could you give me his name and I'll do a Google search?
Sure, it's Nicolas Gonzalez. Nicolas Gonzalez.
And we've been getting some questions about doing research about Lark, Utah. So I thought I would just kind of use the digital library to do some of that research. We can see that we're coming up with a bunch of different things where we have images. So I guess this is a smelter from the Lark mine. This is something that is from the Utah State Historical Society. If I'm searching for things in the digital library, I also have this option here to look through the different collections. So here I can see there's something in the Carbon County oral histories where somebody was talking about Lark, Utah, and I can just go into that transcript and hear somebody's talking about that and the company that owned the mine up in Lark. And let's see if there's anything else. In some cases, we're getting other pictures. So that's the Lark School. So you can find images that might go along with family history in the digital library. And then it looks like there's a few more oral history collections if you're particularly interested in that. Here's a couple from the Hispanic oral histories that look like they might be dealing with Lark, Utah in some fashion. And so I could go through and do some research there as well.
Yeah, and I just also wanted to highlight that, especially with photos, sometimes those aren't actually from the Marriott Library Special Collections. We do house collections from like the Utah State Historical Society or Department of Heritage and Arts and things. So if you did want to use those photos for something and you needed to get permission for like a publication, then that would not go through me. That would go through that institution. But we do have it all in the same search platform.
Yeah, so here is an interview with, I think it was Priscilla that was curious about Lark, Utah, just searching Lark, Utah in the digital library, brought up her interview because I saw that she was talking about Lark. And I put that in the description there. So people could be doing general research about a particular place and then find the oral histories that way as well. We also have, just really quickly for genealogical research, do any of you search like newspapers for information about your ancestors or birth dates, obituaries, things like that?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
if, cool. Do you know about this site, this Utah Digital Newspaper site?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. So I'll if it's okay, I'm gonna plug this a tiny bit. This is free. This is from the library. You know, if you're using something like newspapers.com, you have to pay for it. This is totally free and online. You can browse it by newspaper. So if there's a particular area that you're interested in, you can do that. So if you're, I'm just going to pick something totally at random and see if that's useful. So if I was really interested in this paper called the San Juan Record from 1919 to 1953, I can go in here and I can also search births, marriages, and deaths if I wanted to. So if I needed to, or I could browse births, marriages, or deaths. So if I was doing some genealogical research that way, I'm just going to click on that to just browse to come up with something. And then I can see some of these notices like Mr. and Mrs. Vernon Rowley had a boy. So if I was trying to piece together some information, I could do that. But just so you know that this is just a huge database of historical newspapers, all free, all online for you to use. So that might also come in handy if any of you have ancestors, going through Utah at any point.
Can you download the whole page that you look at, or?
Yeah, you can.
Just out of curiosity, I was going to see if you could pull up the Midvale Sentinel.
Okay,
It was a local paper that
Let me
I'm
see
not
if-
sure if everything's been digitized. It's in Salt Lake County.
okay. Let me see what we have there.
Oh, there it is.
Right there.
Midvale
Yeah,
Journal
right there.
Sentinel.
Yes.
And then, so it's always really good to look at these dates of coverage here, because we try to put everything online that we're legally able to. But sometimes there are gaps. So this covers, it looks like from 1925 to 1988. And a lot of our older newspapers do have this special index for births, marriages, and deaths, but not all of them do. So sometimes you just also need to be creative with your searching.
So what do you put in those boxes? The dates or the names or what?
If I knew, does anybody have a sense of the name of somebody who might be in Midvale? I don't know. I could just put in something very,
Albert?
very
We had
generic.
Kent Brown. He was a boy of the year.
Okay.
And,
Well, let's just look for, I'm just going to look for the.
Would you be able to put his name on that key
No.
search?
You could do a keyword search too.
To put
So
names on?
yeah, you could do that.
yeah, Kent Brown.
Let's see if we can find anything or not. Okay, so it's coming up with a few things, and then I'd have to search and see where on the page that's popping up. And sometimes it'll be highlighted somewhere. I probably should have searched. Oh, see, this came up, Dr. J.H. Brown, dentist, but I'm not seeing Kent. So I probably want to be trickier and put that in as a phrase or quotes. And then we can see, when was he boy of the year?
Do you remember Kent?
Person was detected.
So this is pulling up information about Sergeant Kent Brown as an acting police chief. I don't know if it's the same Kent Brown or not.
No.
But that's an
Yeah,
example.
the year
of
would have been 1964, I believe.
Okay, let me look.
Oh.
Oh,
Sorry, wasn't expecting to like
Wow.
show that much leg at this meeting.
Midvale.
There's
Yeah.
something highlighted. There's
Yeah,
something-
so I'm gonna.
Do you see that highlighted there?
Hillcrest lists awards winners for 1964 to 65 year. And it says
He was
Was
student
Kent-
body officer.
Kent Brown, student body president. Is that you?
Yes.
It is.
And you did music also?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So our daughters, that's really cool.
So now you could, if you wanted to, if you have this page, or I could download it and send it to you later. If you click on download file, you can just save that page to your computer, and then you can, have that to put in, wherever you like.
That's wonderful.
Cool. I just wanted to mention it because I know folks doing genealogy really like newspapers. And this is something that the Marriott Library does. And it's really just on behalf of everyone in the state to give people free access to all of these historic materials. So I just wanted to do an extra plug for that program.
That's great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we can send
Please
these links
send it.
out. Also, if there are folks that weren't able to be here today, if you think they'd be interested in having this information, again, I'd be happy to do another of these sessions if it would be useful, or if people have more specific questions down the road, really just feel free to email me and let me know, and I'm sure that's the same for Rebecca too. So
I noticed you put a lot of the links in the chat feature, and the chat feature we can send to everybody as well. But it might be nice if you put together a little brochure with all the links together, so that you know, it looks a little bit better and it discusses what's in the link and that sort of thing.
we can do that and include some search tips. And so I guess maybe Rebecca, you and I can do that next week, and then we can just send it out to everyone.
That would be grateful, because in essence, we're trying to promote this for this posterity of our members, as well as for the Utah University of Utah and their oral history.
So one thing that I didn't mention that might be interesting for folks coming from other states is our digital library also gets harvested by other digital libraries, including a very big one called the Digital Public Library of America. And that draws from every state, essentially. So eventually these oral histories are sort of discoverable in a variety of contexts. So if somebody's just looking for, you know, oral histories from a variety of states, it'll pop up there too.
Well, if one's going to do an oral history, I assume they want it for posterity reasons at this point in time, unless they have information there where they want to not release to the general public. But I understand they would. Why would you want to do it if you, in the first place?
Yeah, it just depends. And so I think at the library we tend to be pretty conservative, and we want to make sure that people are comfortable with it. And so if for any reason somebody wants to do the oral history and then just say, here's an oral history, but don't make it available to anybody for 30 years, that's like totally normal and something that we could do. And that's a normal kind of part of the process.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And I think we can step off now, and then you should have our contact information, and then Rebecca and I will put a brochure together, and then we'll put our email addresses on that too. And if you think of any questions that you have later on, just feel free to reach out. So thanks very much.
I just wanted to add on as a person, something personal. 100 years ago, when I was a student, I worked in special collections.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I worked there when Dr. Cooley was there.
Oh, that's amazing.
I don't know if it was a woman named Ruth, and I think, I can't remember her last name, but she'd been there forever. So she's probably been gone forever. But yeah, I loved working there.
Oh.
And then I used to do my research, pulling out the codices, the Mexican codices.
Oh.
Are they digitized, or would you have to walk in to get those, or are you, do you know?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious.
It
It was so lovely. Thank you so much. And very, very informative and information that I'm sure all of us appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone.